Dub Nation. Time for the real and inside story on Warriors basketball.
Curry sidestep, Curry drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Double team, Murray, the lob, and out of the dunker spot. Aaron Gordon skying high for 17 points to make it 117-103.
His favorite target, Jokic to Gordon, slams it home.
Slams it home and slams the door on a huge Denver comeback. Warriors led in this game by as many as 16, and then they would trail by as many as 16 right there at the end, 119-103. So a 32-point swing from the high mark of this game for the Warriors into the ultimate final score as the Nuggets come into Chase Center and they hand the Warriors another loss. 7 straight victories for the Nuggets over the Warriors over the last 2 years with the champion and now defending champion Nuggets as well. So we welcome you in, Dubs OT. Appreciate it with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. As we welcome you in here, 808 KNBR is the phone number to give me a call or shoot me a text here on the program. As we get things tipped off here, 415-808-5627. Live from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, as always, after each and every one of these games to be played in San Francisco. And we'll get right into it here. Time for some phone calls. We'll let the YouTube chat build up here. Appreciate everybody, as always, watching on YouTube and Twitch. As we get things going here on Dubs OT with JD on KNBR, the sports leader. Rough one for Golden State that started off so promising with Klay Thompson coming in off the bench, 16 points in the first quarter in 7 minutes. Klay came in right around that 7-minute mark and just went off. The quintessential epic Klay Thompson heater, 16 in the first quarter, 7 more in quarter number 2. He had 23 at halftime, but this game flips late in the second quarter after the Warriors had been up by as many as 16. Denver erased it with a 14-0 and 21-5 run at the end of the second quarter. It was all tied at 61 apiece, and then from there, Stephen Curry, cold night for him, and the Nuggets would open the third quarter after the Warriors had hit the first 2 buckets. The Nuggets hit the Warriors with another 14-0. So basically 28-4 combined, the runs to close the second quarter. 14 for the Nuggets. Warriors scored the first 4 of the third. Denver ends up with 14 more. Right after that, Warriors 4-point little spurt, and Denver was basically in control of this one. Jokic with a triple-double middle of the third quarter. The Warriors, I thought, did get a nice whistle in the third quarter. Stephen Curry was attacking and driving and got fouled on a 3, and I know there was one call that had everybody up in arms that he didn't get, but I thought the Warriors actually got a pretty favorable whistle. A lot of free throws in quarter number 3 to allow the Warriors to kind of hang in the game. It wound up being just a 30-26 Denver advantage in the third. So the Warriors had withstood the 28-4 run into the second quarter, start of the third quarter to be within 4. Jokic was going to take his customary seat on the bench to begin the fourth quarter with Stephen Curry out on the Warriors side. But the Nuggets were able to maintain and basically turn a 4-point lead into a 5-point lead. So a short advantage for Denver. And Steve Kerr, I thought, had a tough closing lineup decision. Really the first time since the new-look Warriors have been in play here over the last 6 weeks or so. One of the more difficult decisions, he rolled with Klay Thompson, who had been hot. Unfortunately, Klay didn't score a single point in the second half. And as we've seen on a lot of these nights where Klay Thompson has a hot streak, even the games where he has the supreme hot streak, a lot of nights he also has a supreme cold streak, and so it levels out to right around 50% or so. And Klay was the finisher tonight over Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, and Kuminga. I thought Kerr stuck with Kuminga despite Not maybe Kuminga's best game, although he was the one player that was basically scoring in a fourth quarter that was littered with Golden State turnovers. Draymond Green, rough game for Draymond. Stephen Curry ends up 1 of 10 from 3. The Warriors 11 of 34 overall, and they end up getting hit in the paint. 54-46. The bench play in the second half was a little bit more even when you didn't factor the Klay Thompson 23-point first half. And so the Nuggets walk out of Chase with a comfortable win. They force Steve Kerr to call off the dogs and wave the white flag in the final couple of minutes here, and it ends up 119-103 the final. So 808 KNBR, the number to give me a call or shoot me a text. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well here on the Sports Leader as we get things tipped off on a Sunday night. Warriors with the loss now find themselves at 29-27, and you look at the Western Conference standings at this point, and tonight was one of those potential springboard games, right? If you could, tonight also a measuring stick, a barometer type game, I thought, for the Warriors. Where do they stack up against some of the best of the best of the best in the Western Conference? And now you look at the Warriors' last 2 losses. They've come to the defending champion Nuggets and the Clippers, who came into Chase and put the Warriors to bed with the big comeback down the stretch of that one after the Warriors had played so well. So I think big picture, as we kind of zoom out, Warriors playing quality basketball, but as it pertains to getting on this big time run, I think it's a one night little blip in terms of the potential for this team to get on a big run down the stretch and try and improve their seeding. The big picture, though, question, and we'll make this the question of the night here on Dubs OT, and it's basically, does this game and the Nuggets' ability to sort of flip the switch on the Warriors, because it was just championship level basketball by the Nuggets. It reminded me of what we would see the champions level Warriors do to teams in the heyday when they were winning back-to-back and 3 and 4 and even a couple of years ago when they got on the championship heater to win in 2022. It basically would be kind of a flip of the switch. And I thought Denver hung in the game in the first half. Even though they weren't playing well, they withstood the hot streak from Klay Thompson. They trusted that they were able to get better defensively as the game went on. And just too many turnovers for the Warriors down the stretch. A rough offensive fourth quarter for the Warriors in this one. 26-16 Nuggets in that fourth quarter. And, again, not a good Draymond Green night, minus 23. Nobody could slow down Jokic. I've said it throughout the last few days. I think Denver's starting lineup is the best starting lineup in the NBA. And you look at their starting group, that starting group is what won the Denver Nuggets this game by that final of 119 to 103 with, Jokic, just an incredible line for Nikola Jokic. 32 points, 16 boards, 16 assists when it's all said and done in 37 minutes, and just, absolutely controlled the game down the stretch. Aaron Gordon's been a handful for the Warriors in that dunker spot. Aaron Gordon's been a handful for the Warriors defensively. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was getting cooked. What's going on? Appreciate everybody stopping by and saying hi here at Harmonic Brewing inside Thrive City. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope got off to a tough start, and Klay was really cooking him, even though Caldwell-Pope's a great defender. But as the game went on, again, you just look at the balance for the Denver starters. Murray got it rolling there in the second quarter, 16-point quarter for him. And the question of the night, does this game change feeling about the Warriors as far as being legitimate Western Conference contenders? Because I think there's 2 teams right now that are the cream of the crop in the Western Conference. I think it's the Nuggets by virtue of them being defending champions. I think it's the Clippers by virtue of basically being the best team in the Western Conference over the course of the last 2.5, now almost 3 months. And when they've been fully loaded and fully healthy and locked in, I think they have the ability to be a matchup nightmare for just about everybody. They've got a championship-level coach as well. And so, we've seen the Warriors these last couple in the games that they haven't been able to finish off. You've seen the gap, right? You've seen the Warriors' ability to hang in these games. We've seen the Warriors' ability to win other games against other teams. But, Denver, again, I think in this game put the champions level sort of clamp down in the second half. And it was really, I think, reminiscent of what we've seen the Warriors and other championship teams do once they're able to get on that level of run and that level of heater. So 808 KNBR is the phone number to give me a call or shoot me a text here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader, as we come to you from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Warriors take the L to fall to 29-27. And again, looking at the NBA standings, that puts them back into 10th in the Western Conference. Warriors had upped their game to 9th there for a couple of days. The Lakers got beat again earlier today in Phoenix. But the Warriors find themselves now at 29-27. And again, back to the drawing board, although micro view, don't think it's a big deal as far as the ability to continue the forward momentum. And a huge road trip for the Warriors begins Tuesday in Washington. The perfect opportunity for Golden State to get right back to the winning ways, see what happens in New York and Toronto before closing the road trip in Boston a week from today. And then the Warriors come back home with more winnable games to follow on that next homestand before going back out on the road. So all in all, it's a deflating loss, I think. But the reason it's a deflating loss is because it shows in many ways, despite how well the Warriors have played of late, that they still maybe aren't quite up to snuff as far as it comes to contending with the other big boys in the Western Conference, when you look at the teams that have been able to outlast them and beat them. And again, similar story. Poor fourth quarter offense, although you make the case tonight, Warriors lose this game. End of the first half, beginning of the second half, the 28-4 run, bridging the first half and the second half, ultimately proves to be the difference as Denver walks out of chase, and they get the win. 16-point lead gone so quickly with that 14-0 run. It only took 2:47. Stephen Curry, rough night shooting the ball. Draymond Green, rough night with Jokic, who basically had his way. And, despite, Kuminga scoring 19, minus 20 for Kuminga, really all the starters are minus, so it is somewhat irrelevant to point out the one. But, yeah, Draymond minus 23, Curry minus 22. The guys that were out there the most wound up with the worst plus-minus, and that was basically what was going on as far as the starters in this one as well. So Dubs OT with JD, we're rolling on here. Let's go ahead and pause, Greg, if we can, and take a quick break here. We can come back. We can reset the phones. We can dig into – yeah, let's take the caller now, actually. Let's take Connor in Dublin, and then we'll pause, and then we'll roll back as we let people file in here on YouTube and Twitch as well. Yeah, Connor in Dublin first here tonight on Dubs OT with JD on KNBR, the sports leader.
Hey, JD, how are you?
I'm doing well. Tough one for the Warriors. All in all, I think Denver made a little bit of a statement as to, how good they can be when they're playing at their best tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But my opinion is that the Warriors definitely lost this one. I feel like they could have beaten the Nuggets. It was 51-38 or whatever, something like that. And it was an amazing run for the Warriors. 16-point lead, and they let it all slip away at the end of that first half. And it was just sad watching those points start to level out. And so, that's I'm hearing Tolbert, and he's like, we need more faster movement. We need a faster pace, more guys cutting, stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah. And you think that's what it's going to be. And then I guess the Warriors can't seem to, pull it off. I guess another big clutch game, I guess, or something like that. I guess what's new. But look, I saw faith in the Warriors. There's nothing happening in that department. I still have a great loving for the Warriors, always have, and none of their failures will ever stop me from enjoying this team. And hopefully they can get a win in their next game.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. Appreciate it. 808 KNBR, the number. Connor's line open for you to jump in and join the conversation. Again, in the grand scheme of things, taking this loss, as much as it may sting, I don't think ultimately is, you get back on the horse on Tuesday, you win in Washington, and you continue that forward momentum. Bigger picture, though, I do think it makes you kind of wonder as far as, just the separation gap in play between where the Warriors are and finding themselves and where the Nuggets are and maybe a handful of other teams are in terms of being legitimate potential contenders in the Western Conference. So we'll go ahead and pause here. We'll come back, 808 KNBR. We'll let the YouTube chat roll in. We'll dive into that coming back. We got Sounds of Silver as well out here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It's Dubs OT with JD, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps rolling. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Thompson with 7 on the shot clock. Got to get to work. Good pocket pass. Green inside, and it comes off. Everything but the bucket for Golden State. Caldwell pump for 3. Got it. KCP with 13. And the lead swells to 10.
Yeah, Warriors lose to the Nuggets, part of the big second half collapse or comeback as Denver puts it on the Warriors, showing a little champion's blood over at Chase as they win it 119-103. We're back here, Dubs OT with JD, KNBR, the sports leader. Warriors outscored 28-4 to bridge the second and third quarters, 28-16 in the fourth. A lot of turnovers, Stephen Curry cold, and you add it all up, and the Warriors find themselves now back to 2 games over 500 and back to 16-15 at home with the next 4 on the road. 808 KNBR is the number. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line, YouTube and Twitch. We are live there as well. Appreciate everybody joining us. And out here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, definitely want to raise a glass and say thank you and cheers. The wonderful Daniel and Carla, who both stopped by to say hi, and out here at Harmonic enjoying a beverage following this Warriors loss tonight to the Nuggets. But, yeah, Daniel bringing yours truly over a brew. So cheers. Appreciate it. Couple of greats here, and we appreciate them listening on KNBR, the sports leader. So 808 KNBR, let's get back to the phones in just a second, but we also want to reset our question of the night. Dubs OT question of the night. Does this game change your feelings about the Warriors being legitimate Western Conference contenders? 4 options for you. Yes, they're not there. No, didn't play great. I overreact to every game. This is the third option. That's actually the option that I chose. That has 10.5% of the vote. And then the fourth option is some, but not a ton, in terms of does it change your feelings as far as the Warriors being legitimate contenders in the Western Conference. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Drew Down, who is next here on the sports leader. Hey, Drew Down, what's going on tonight, my man?
Hey, what's going on, JD? I'll start off with your question. I'll start go number 2. They didn't play great. I don't necessarily think this team is, can be considered a championship favorite. I'm just hopeful just for us to climb as high as we can and see what kind of noise we can make. Maybe could we get there? Who knows? But I think that's crazy if you're talking about championship with where this team is slotted. But I still think there's a lot of upside. But I definitely said they didn't play a great game. Definitely a tough loss. Thought we had them in the first half. Not gonna lie. But turnovers were definitely an issue. Obviously, recurring. Draymond had 6 turnovers. I love his vision, but sometimes some of those passes are just like, you got to thread the needle, and it's like, it's not. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on some of those. So those definitely hurt. And then Klay came out, gangbusters, man. Vibes were high in the first quarter. He was balling, but then after that, there wasn't a whole lot of production. And there was a one point in the game where I feel like we really lost. It was at end of the second quarter. 3 minutes left. Dubs were up 14. Denver hits a shot, cut it to 12. Warriors missed 3. Denver hit a 3, cut it to 9. Dubs turn it over. Nuggets score. Dubs miss. Denver scores. Basically, within a 3-minute span, that 61-47 lead was a tie game at half. So I think in a lot of ways, that stretch kind of more or less lost us the game. Murray and Jokic just put on a clinic. Murray was hitting tough shots. Gordon was thought he was hitting shots inside. His defense was great. KCP was good on defense and had some efficient 3-pointer, some backbreaking 3-pointers. I felt like KCP hit, and I thought the bench with Saric, GP2, Loon, and Jackson only had 10 points between them. So other than Klay in the first quarter, I felt like this team didn't get a lot of production from the bench, especially in a night where Curry was struggling offensively. So not going to panic. It was a tough loss against a great team. Would have been great to get a win, but they got to get back to the drawing board and look at the next game and put this one behind them and just get the next W. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, end of the second quarter told the story. 61-47 to tie game, 14-0 run. Beginning of the third, 14-0 run after the Warriors scored the first 4. And I think the Nuggets, they played like champions. They did to the Warriors what we've seen the Warriors in other years do to a bunch of other teams that kind of think they're on the come and want a challenge. And you look at the 2 games just at Chase between the Warriors and Nuggets this season, right? Nuggets run them down, 18-point lead late, second half. Win that game, steal it on the Jokic 3 at the buzzer, and then this one, Warriors get them down 16 again, but the Nuggets able to flip the switch and get the job done and win the game. And I think as far as Draymond and the passes and all of that, Jokic was kind of laying back. He was kind of playing the LeBron role tonight in terms of just waiting for the pass, kind of, not treating Draymond fully as a threat, wait for the pass. The Nuggets, I thought, as the game went on, really played the passing lanes well, which led to some of the Warriors' turnovers, which ultimately did the Warriors in this game. So 808 KNBR is the number. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader as we roll through here on a Sunday following the Warriors' loss at Chase to the Denver Nuggets, 119-103. Warriors had led by 16 in this one. You look at the other high water mark of the game, 56-40 and 61-47. Both of those wind up getting flipped, and the Warriors find themselves now back to the drawing board indeed at a couple of games over the 500 mark. So YouTube chat, appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as well as the Warriors take the L. Douglas Mike's checking in. This team ain't it, and that's because we don't have a second option. Well, tonight was a good night for that because there was a lot of Stephen Curry, getting doubled or the Nuggets really overcommitting to Steph and him having to give up the ball, looking for others. And, I guess, Klay Thompson was hot early, and that looked like he was going to be, the guy. But then, Kuminga ended up putting up some points late, but I thought Denver was comfortable with the points and the shots that Kuminga was getting. And so, I thought, well, he got his numbers tonight. Tonight was the first game in a while where I didn't really think Kuminga was as impactful as his overall numbers wound up being. And I think the Nuggets, like we saw the Kings do a little bit in the game about a month or so ago, they were kind of letting Kuminga get his, making him work, but letting him get his as they were also trying to be able to slow Steph down. And as the game went on, when Klay Thompson got hot, proved to be, trying to make sure that they could wear him down a little bit over the course of that game. So, yeah, tough night. Kuminga taking it a little bit here. The fibro, Kuminga tunnel vision. Kuminga has no feel. I think that's probably a little harsh. But, again, I think teams are showing – Kuminga's showing up on the scouting report, and I think teams are trying to use Kuminga's strengths, believe it or not, and the things that he's done well against the Warriors at this point as they try to counter the ability to – figure out ways to defend the Warriors. So, again, I'm not too hard on Kuminga. Again, Draymond was not good tonight. Hit his early 3, but, you look at the, 4 assists in this game for Draymond Green, but then you look at the turnovers, he ends up with 6 turnovers. And the Warriors had too many turnovers. They were moving the ball early. They were assisting on almost every bucket early in the game. But at the end of the night, it ends up 27 assists to 17 turnovers. So the Warriors really were made by Denver to be a team that was playing a little bit more one-on-one. And I think Kuminga was a part of that. Wiggins got off to a really good start. I thought Wiggins tapered off as the game went on. Warriors didn't get it. Podziemski's not maybe the best matchup for the Nuggets. Klay Thompson, a better matchup. Sturdier against Denver, but again, Klay goes for 16 in the first quarter, 23 in the first half, and you're thinking, is this going to be a 35, 40-plus point Klay night? And unfortunately, even on the nights where Klay Thompson is awesome and he has those stretches that are shades of the old Klay Thompson, even on those nights, he still has a cold spell that kind of makes you go, oh, okay, it just isn't quite the same. Not an indictment of him, but just an indictment of the reality that he's just not going to be as consistent a player at this particular point in his career, even on a night where he, for the most part, is really special in a lot of ways. And that 7-minute stretch with the 16 points was special. And you look at that first half with the 23 points, and that was really special. About a 14-minute straight run. Kerr left him in the game. He was hot, and Kerr was hell bent on trying to ride it out, but it didn't ultimately work out for the Warriors in this one. So 808 KNBR is the phone number. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. Also, back into the YouTube chat, Digum117. Warriors have to at least look to score in the mid-range. The threes stop falling, and the offense dies. Yeah, it's I thought Steph in the third quarter was trying to drive and get to the bucket and get fouled. I thought the Warriors were doing a nice job of getting fouled, and the free throw department in the third quarter, I thought, prevented the game from getting away from them. But then in the fourth quarter, they didn't really get to the line. And in the fourth quarter, them not getting to the line allowed Denver to push the lead out and allowed Denver to kind of take control of the game. It felt like Denver had control of this one for the most part in the second half, even though it remained relatively close. A couple of people weighing in on Jokic, Karmar, Curry not having the best of games, Looney and Podziemski looking like complete minuses, letting go of the rope right before halftime. Kerr thriving still with his rotation dilemmas. I thought had tonight been a little closer down the stretch, it would have been a tough call. Really, Steve Kerr, he rode with the regulars except for Klay Thompson over Podziemski, and how could you, as I stop to take a sip here, still trying to work on that throat and make sure that the voice can make it through here a full couple of hours on The Sports Leader. But yeah, it had the potential to be a tough call for Kerr down the stretch. It wound up not really being a tough call because the Warriors wound up not really having an opportunity to win this game down the stretch as well. Amar Singh checking in the YouTube chat, the best strategy on Jokic, putting a smaller player on him and letting Draymond help. They got some turnovers. Yeah, they had some effective doubles, I thought, at times, but it's a lose-lose battle. And, yeah, anytime you've got Jokic and the ability to just make plays and just, throw the ball to him. Throw the ball to him at the high post. They run all these cuts off. He has the ability to dribble in and score. He gets it in transition. He gets putbacks. He gets tip-ins. He knocks down the three ball as the trailer sometimes in the fast break, and then sometimes he's just looking to push it immediately. A couple of just length of the court passes right off the rebound for some easy buckets that I thought were problematic for the Warriors in this one. So 808 KNBR, the number. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader as the Warriors fall tonight to the Nuggets, 119-103. So 29-27 are the Warriors as they embark on a big 4-game trip. Douglas Mikes, if Pods is one of our starters/closers, this team has a low ceiling. I know Douglas Mikes has been high on the fact that the Warriors need a committed number 2 scorer. It had been Kuminga for a lengthy stretch. Kuminga's kind of fallen off of that as consistently here over the last handful of games. First half it looked like, all right, well, Klay, it could be kind of a night-to-night thing. Klay doing his thing. You can live with the night-to-night, but I think tonight is an example. Credit where credit is due. We're not having that consistent number 2 go-to person. Could it be Wiggins? Maybe. Is it going to be Kuminga? I don't know. Klay Thompson was hot. Now Klay Thompson, goes cold after the 23-point first half, and not having that guy that can be the one that's going to step up and be the number 2 on a night where Curry, struggles and doesn't perform at the usual Curry level. I think has proven to be an issue as well. So, we'll dive into the YouTube chat here. I do want to reset our question of the night. I also want to bring in Greg Silver here on KNBR, the sports leader, and get his initial thoughts on the game. I know Greg does a nice job of getting our poll question up on not only Twitter but also on Threads. And so we'll do a quick update here on the question of the night as we roll on here on KNBR and on Dubs OT. Greg, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing well, JD. Been a lot of work over the last 4 days, but I wouldn't have it any other way, getting to dive headfirst in all this Warriors. And, tonight was a little bit underwhelming in the second half, I thought, but overall, I didn't treat it in the same category as other brutal losses that we've seen out of the Warriors this year. I still think that they are, by and large, playing better basketball. And tonight, they had a team with an MVP and a finals MVP. And I think Jamal Murray is a very underrated number 2 option in the NBA. And they came in and took care of business when the Warriors simply just didn't have their best night. So, yeah, a little disappointing to watch from our perspective out here in the Bay Area. But as far as our question of the night goes, I don't think it really changes my opinion a whole lot. I'm sort of in that some but not a ton category because I never thought that the Warriors were Western Conference Finals contenders just because they beat the Hornets in an ugly game or because they were starting to play better basketball. And I think tonight could have really been a nice springboard game where maybe my opinion would have changed more had they won. But, if you tell me that Stephen Curry goes 1 of 10 beyond the arc, the team has 17 turnovers, Draymond wasn't his best self, Kuminga wasn't his best self, Podziemski wasn't his best self, that's what happens. And I think you hit the nail on the head because that's exactly what I thought to myself in the early fourth quarter, JD, which is what you said we saw that game play out so many times in the Warriors' heyday when they would go and do what the Nuggets did. You go in, you're on the road, other team is fired up, they're playing really good basketball to start, you weather the storm a little bit, kind of calm it down, and then you take control of the game. I thought that was a really great display of keeping their poise and just winning that game with defense by the Nuggets tonight, and it just wasn't the night for the Warriors. I think they can play much better. I think they would have to play much better to compete against a Denver in the playoffs, and that'd be a really brutal matchup, but this was the C-plus Warriors that we saw on display tonight. I think if it was the A Warriors we saw, and it still looked like they had no shot against the Nuggets, that would raise more eyebrows for me.
Yeah, and look, I think, Douglas Mikes in the YouTube chat point, it's still a fun team to watch, but it's clear they need to make a big move. Otherwise, they're just spinning the hamster wheel. And look, I don't know that I'm even necessarily going to go that far, Greg, but I do think when you look at where this team is at right now, it's a matter of, it's twofold for me. Tonight would have maybe changed my opinion a little bit if they had been able to make the first half performance up until the final 3 minutes stand up. But if they can continue the run that they've been on and show that tonight was just a blip and you go on the road and you win a few games and then you come back home and the momentum continues and you continue to rise, I think I will give this team an opportunity to have, the benefit of the doubt to maybe upset somebody. I just think tonight is one of those nights where it shows you, though, the separation between where the Warriors are and where a champion is. And I think there's levels to this. The Warriors could still very well be, at the end of this thing, among the top 4 teams in the Western Conference, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily a championship-level contender at the same time.
And, JD, let's think about the last 2 losses because this ties in exactly with what you've been talking about from second number 1 of the show, which is you mentioned the Clippers being a legitimate threat to go and win the Western Conference. You mentioned the Denver Nuggets, and those are 2 teams that took full advantage of the Warriors not playing very good basketball, a little bit of lack of focus, not connecting down the stretch. Offense was a little questionable, too many turnovers, letting them get good looks. The Clippers and the Nuggets did a very similar thing in taking advantage of the Warriors not executing in their best form. And yeah, I think if you're the Warriors, you'd like to see your team be able to finish games, but it's another reminder that it's a different level that you have to take it to if you want to beat the championship caliber teams in this league, and it's always been that way.
And I think this team this season is still trying to build toward that. I mean, that right now they're trying to basically prove that the 11-4, 11-5 now stretch that they've had here over these last 16 games is who they really are. And look, if they continue to win the way that they have, then I think they're gonna put a lot of fear in a lot of opponents. Once they get into a play-in tournament, or if they end up being good enough to be the 5 or the 6, like this team's going to lose some games regardless down the stretch. If you're losing to the defending champs, if you're losing to the Clippers, those are the games where you can look at it and go, all right, maybe there is still a little bit of a ways to go. But what you got to do is make sure that you don't have the slip-ups in games like Tuesday night at Washington, games like at Toronto, with the new look Raptors team that struggled. And so, yeah, I look at sort of the next, 4 games on the road and the 3 games coming back at Chase. With Milwaukee, it's going to be a good test. Chicago, San Antonio, those next 3 games at Chase in a couple of weeks. And, go 5-2 in the next 7, basically, when we sit here at the end of the next homestand in a couple of weeks. And, continue that forward momentum. Look at this team. That would put them at, 34-29? Then you're almost halfway to that point of, be where you need to be, that 10-12, over 500 type of a realm. So, long ways to go. Again, short term as far as the rest of this season goes, I don't think tonight is a big deal as long as the Warriors are able to bounce back, but I do think it shows the separation gap between where this Warriors team wants to be and where a team like the Nuggets, a champion's blood type of a team that had a switch to flip and flipped it tonight is at, as far as their level of play. And this is even a Nuggets team that, again, as I've said a lot, I don't really love the Nuggets bench, but when you've got a starting 5 as good as the Denver starting 5, and I thought Christian Brown was pretty good tonight as well off the bench for Denver, then that's going to be enough to get the job done. All right, we'll pause here. We'll come back. 808 KNBR is the number. We'll get Sounds of Silver. We'll have some fun with numbers. More from the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. And appreciate everybody out here at Harmonic Brewing as well in Thrive City. Still an opportunity to get in as we'll keep this thing rolling until at least 8 o'clock and maybe beyond, as it is Dubs OT with JD, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
It's down white boy.
Sound right, boy. It sound right, boy.
With more Blue and Gold. This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
All right, back here at Harmonic Brewing, Dubs OT with JD on KNBR, the Sports Leader. Nuggets beat the Warriors 119-103. As the Warriors did lead by as many as 16. Nuggets snuffed that out end of the first half, and then second half, Denver takes control really in the fourth quarter. Warriors outscored in quarter number 4 as Denver goes on to win it in that fourth quarter, 26-16, 28-16 actually, Denver in the fourth quarter. So the Warriors find themselves now back to 2 games over 500. 808 KNBR is the number. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well. You can give us a call or shoot us a text. A couple of text messages that I did want to get to here. 478 chiming in on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Warriors 2 lax after taking the 16-point lead. Nuggets hammered them in the second half. Yeah, I didn't sense a let-up. I sensed more of a Nuggets flip of the switch to basically, hey, we've hung in this thing, and now it's go time. But it just goes to show how fragile it can be for the Warriors from time to time where, a couple of missed shots, couple of turnovers, couple of defensive breakdowns, and has been the case so often in a lot of fourth quarters, the Warriors have been unable to hold leads. It didn't take to the fourth quarter in this one tonight for the Warriors to not be able to hold on to the lead, but there's always that stretch, and tonight it was starters versus starters in the final 3 minutes of the first half and really the first 4 minutes or so of the second half that proved to be the difference. I didn't think, though, that the Warriors let up or anything like that. I thought the Warriors did let up in some other games, but, yeah, I think it's interesting when you start to look at, where this one basically got away for Golden State. 408 chiming in. JD, do you feel like this sort of game shows the Warriors are more of a team that can only beat bottom dwellers more so than title contenders? I mean, I think they can beat title contenders, and I think they will between now and the end of the season, but can they beat title contenders in a playoff series? And, I mean, even if you just look at this stretch since January 24th, where the Warriors are 11-5 now, and they flipped their season around, you look at the losses. Let's just look at the losses specifically. Who have the Warriors lost to? Sacramento by 1 point at Chase Center. The Lakers in a couple of overtimes at Chase Center, back and forth game. Defense really struggling, 2 overtime game. But the Lakers are a team that, they believe that they're contenders, even though they're kind of in the Warriors' boat at this point. Sacramento is having basically the same season they had a year ago. They're not championship contenders, but among the better teams in the Western Conference, I think, for sure. And so you look at them, and we saw what they're capable of doing against the Warriors head-to-head, going back to that playoff series last April. You lose that game. Atlanta, road game, goes to OT. You kind of fall apart a little bit down the stretch. But then these last 2, Clippers, who I've said a few times I think are a legitimate title contender with the way that they've played since December, and Denver, obviously a title contender, excuse me, as the defending champion. So, I mean, can the Warriors beat these teams? Yes, they've beaten Boston. They've beaten a shorthanded Philadelphia team. They have beaten the Clippers earlier in the season. Now, Denver's the one team they haven't beaten since the playoff series going back to 2022, and the Warriors won the championship. That first-round series where Denver didn't have Murray, didn't have Michael Porter Jr., Game 5 of that series is the last time going back to April of 2022 that the Warriors beat the Nuggets. It's now 7 straight against Denver. So, would I be foolish enough to sit here and say, yeah, I think the Warriors can win a series against Denver? No, I don't think that the Warriors can win a series against Denver as things sit right now. And I think the last 7 games would tell you that it would probably be tough to think that they could. The Nuggets are just at a different point in their trajectory right now as defending champs. And I think they're kind of going through the slog of the season. They don't quite have as much depth as they had last year, but their starters are still so freaking good. But, yeah, bottom dwellers, the Warriors are handling business against bottom dwellers. They're handling business, I think, against middle of the pack. But, yeah, the Denvers, the Clippers, the Milwaukees, that'll be a good test coming up. Warriors lost to them, albeit shorthanded, lost to them in Milwaukee going back to January. How do they do against Boston? They did beat Boston right before Christmas. They're going to get another shot at Boston next week. I think the Warriors always play Boston pretty effectively. I mean, who are we really talking about here? I know they don't have wins against Minnesota in a couple of games this year. They don't have but the 1 win in 4 games against Oklahoma City. And those 2 teams are at the top of the Western Conference. They won 1 out of 4, or 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 actually against the Clippers in their season series. So, I mean, the case can be made if you just look at the standings and look at right now Minnesota 0-2. OKC 1-3, Clippers 1-3, Denver 0-4, even Phoenix, who's 5th right now, 1-5 or 1-3 against Phoenix. We talked about that yesterday on Just Dubs. So, I mean, can they win a series against any of these teams? Yeah, I think it remains to be seen. But the Warriors, at least this iteration, haven't won a lot. To just be real and honest about it against some of the top teams in the West, and tonight would have been a good test. And they were unable to get the job done and complete the task. So 808 KNBR 309 on the text line. Klay, no offense in the second half after going off for 23 in the first half. That proved to be the difference, and the 267 as well. Here on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line, ran out of gas. Warriors ran out of gas, 16-point lead. Nuggets just hammered them. Brutal stuff. Yeah, brutal finish for the Warriors in this one as they get outscored. I mean, you look at the moment that the Warriors were up 56-40. I mean, that was the high water mark of the game for the Warriors, 56-40. Was the score there with about 4 or 5 minutes to go before halftime, about 4 minutes to go before halftime, and you look up at the end of the night, and the Nuggets end up with 79 from that point on. It was 79-47, 79-47, basically over the last 27 or 28 minutes of the game, and it was for the most part an absolute clinic put on by the Nuggets, who I do think deserve a little bit of respect put on their name. I think it was, a performance where, yes, the Warriors didn't have it, but the Nuggets also, I think, made them not have it. Checking in on our question of the night, our Dubs OT question of the night here on The Sports Leader. Does this game change your feelings about the Warriors being legitimate Western Conference contenders? Overwhelming right now, 43.1% of the vote on Twitter says yes, they're not there. No, they didn't play great is still the number 2 answer, 24.5%. It changes some, but not a ton. That's 21.1% of the vote. And the fourth option, and the option that I chose tonight, I overreact every game because that's what I'm paid to do here on KNBR, the Sports Leader. 11.4% of the vote saying, I overreact every game. Basically, not that big of a deal. Or maybe it's an absolutely huge deal. If you look at it under that context, depends on where you're coming from. Some comments, though, based on the question of the night as well. Some replies on Twitter that I wanted to get to. DL8, long way to go to be a contender. Getting swept by the defending champs shows the front office is clueless. Why wouldn't you get some true bigs? Who's top dogs in the West? Bunch of bigger teams, man. Not extending Kerr when beating weak teams. Overrated, mediocre coach. Small bar. Let's Jay Singh, small ball. DL8. Let the Twitter meltdown begin, right? Let the Warriors social media meltdown begin with the Golden State.
I don't care.
Losing the one game, right? I saw a lot of "Where's Moses Moody" tweets for the first time tonight in 3-4 weeks. Like nobody was really complaining about Moses Moody when the Warriors were winning every night. But I thought there was going to be some "Where's Kuminga" tonight. I was actually surprised that Steve Kerr finished the game with Kuminga. Believe it or not, I thought there was some potential maybe for GP2 to be out there down the stretch, but I think they really are trying to limit GP2's minutes. GP2 was a positive player. I could have seen the Draymond GP2, Wiggins, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry closing group, but he wasn't going to make that same mistake twice, Coach Kerr, and not finishing the game with Jonathan Kuminga against the Nuggets after what happened back on January 4 in this building. And the Warriors did end up needing Kuminga's offense down the stretch, although I think the way that Kuminga was getting it at the free throw line and some more isolation type play played a little bit into Denver's hands there. Truth is Love, responding to our question of the night. You did nothing at the deadline to address the major issue of matchups. Again, and this goes back to the DL8 comment, Jay Singh, appreciate it. Like, if the Warriors had gone, Andre Drummond, let's say. Warriors go get Andre Drummond, and he's on this team right now. Maybe he's playing down the stretch tonight, but if he's playing, then Jonathan Kuminga is not, because Draymond's going to be playing the 4. You want to have him out there with Steph. Wiggins was playing, well enough, I thought, to close the game tonight. Klay Thompson earned the spot over Pajemski by playing better in the game tonight. But I think when you look at it, if we're talking about true bit, Trace Jackson Davis played well tonight. And I thought there was a case to be made that Trace Jackson Davis could finish the game tonight. But again, if you're doing that, you're taking Kuminga off the floor, because Draymond's going to slide to the 4, and the big reason why Kuminga's been able to thrive has been because Draymond's played the 5. But, yeah, Draymond he didn't have it tonight against Jokic. And it's a tough matchup. There's no doubt. But, could this team have added a big at the deadline? Greg, I don't know what your thoughts on that. Could they? I know they were in conversations, but I just don't see a big that would make a consequential enough impact, and also finish games for this team where it would be worthy of them to do it. Like, their best shot against Jokic is to have Draymond be able to defend him and to really try and put him in pick and roll on the other side and force him to defend and wear him down to a point where maybe he doesn't hit shots when defended by Draymond on a regular basis?
The answer is no, that I don't think they needed to sign another big, and I know that's going to make some
Drummond,
people...
Robin Lopez, get out of here with
people
that.
are going to come for my head. They're going to come to our studios and just come right for my head for that comment. But here's the deal, JD. Like, what's worked for the Warriors in a season when it felt like really not a lot was working? Draymond Green playing the 5 with Wiggins and Kuminga in a lineup that could coexist. End of answer. So I'm not saying that having bigs is unnecessary, but your best, most important, and likely to be closing lineup in any important game will have Draymond playing the 5. So if you go out and getting another big, all I see with that is just compromising Trace Jackson Davis's minutes, and he's had really nice flashes when he's played. Like, to me, I don't see why going and getting a Andre Drummond or a Robin Lopez or a Pokuveski from the Thunder, that like all that does in my eyes is just send Trace Jackson Davis to the bench.
No doubt, and that you don't want. You do not want that, and Trace Jackson Davis is a productive player. Again, I think you could make the case Trace Jackson Davis could have closed the game tonight, but I'll say it for a third time. If Trace Jackson Davis, Greg, closes the game tonight, then Jonathan Kuminga doesn't close the game tonight, and then you open up a whole can of worms surrounding that, because you were going to still have Draymond out there at the end regardless, and Wiggins, I thought, had a better game overall than Kuminga did. Not only the fact that Wiggins plays the 3 and Kuminga doesn't play the 3. So, I thought it was interesting the way Steve Kerr finished. It didn't really matter. I mean, all the starters were a net negative in this one, and it wasn't like it wound up being a close game. I mean, the Nuggets really put the Warriors away down the stretch. But again, I think a lot of times people think that big is only playing instead of Looney, basically only playing instead of Looney, or would be playing instead of maybe Wiggins or something like that. Any big that the Warriors would get is basically going to be playing instead of Kuminga, and or instead of Trace Jackson Davis. So if you're a Warrior fan that thinks they need to add that player between now and let's say March 1st here coming up in a few days, then it's a scenario where you're basically creating a glut where currently there isn't a glut as far as this team goes. 808 KNBR, more thoughts from Greg Silver. We'll also have our Sounds of Silver, which is going to be coming up here at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Fun with numbers as well. But let's get to the phones and check in down in San Jose with Duck Sauce here on The Sports Leader. Duck Sauce, what's going on tonight, my brother? Appreciate you calling in. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching here on The Sports Leader.
Hey, yes, sir, JD. Always nice to be listening to you. Just a few takes. Tonight, I thought it was clear early that Steph didn't have it tonight. He looked a little tired, and I really thought he let what's his name be physical with him. KCP be physical with him, all night. And then also, I'm not trying to, come down Podziemski's road, but to me, he's had a great rookie campaign, but to me, this was the first time he kind of looked outclassed tonight. Like when both teams had their best men on the floor, and if he was one of them, he looked like the one guy that didn't belong to me. Even when the Warriors were rolling in the first half, I still didn't think he looked like he belonged tonight. He struggled to get a shot off. He just kind of looked like, I don't want to say the moment was too big because it was a regular season game, but I did think he looked a little overwhelmed tonight. The last thing I wanted to say was the one guy I thought still looked, had a good night overall. I thought Wiggins still shot the ball confidently. I know he didn't blow the doors off in the scoring column, but I thought his ball hawking was still good. He was fighting around screens really hard, and I still thought he shot the ball confidently, which is important moving forward. And to answer your question about, I do think it was alarming that we really had no answer for Jokic, but at this point, I mean, that's a conundrum for another day because we got more pressing problems to even get to where we need to get to get to that point. And then that was all I had to say. But you guys talking about the bigs, I did want to say one last thing, JD. Sorry to ramble, but all these guys talking about getting big men. I mean, if you're asking for Robin Lopez or Andre Drummond or Podziemski, you just don't have any pulse on the league. Those guys are not going to help us. there's two centers in this league that can punish you down low and really make you pay, and that's Jokic and Embiid. The rest of the teams in this league, they can't really hurt you like that. So, and people asking for the kid out of Oklahoma City, he might be 7 feet. Have you ever even watched him play? He plays like a small forward.
He's a perimeter player. Yeah, he's actually a very skilled player. He's a very skilled player, but he's not a banger by any stretch.
Exactly. He's a perimeter player. So these guys throwing these names out here, it's like, where's your pulse on the league, man? These guys aren't going to help us. Yeah, sorry to ramble, JD. That's all I got, man. Thank you. Good night.
No, appreciate it. I mean, he's more of a Saric type player, honestly, than he is a banger on the interior, Pukashevsky. So yeah, a lot to chew on there from our guy Duck Sauce. Yeah, Steph didn't have it tonight. I thought Steph would have it tonight, but the reality for Steph tonight and KCP, and Pajemski is KCP, and not only KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but Denver. The Denver starting lineup is just no joke. The Denver starting lineup's just no joke. Like, I think it's the best starting lineup. I think it's the most balanced starting lineup in the NBA. I mean, when you've got Jokic and Murray as your 1-2 punch, Caldwell-Pope can hit the three. He's an excellent defender. He's long playing that 2 spot. You've got Michael Porter Jr., who's long playing the 3. You've got Gordon, who's big on the interior. He's a dunker. He's a rebounder. He's a defender. Like, it's just he can play on the interior, so he can play on the interior. You've got Caldwell-Pope, who can spot shoot the 3 and hit the mid-range. You got Porter Jr., who can shoot the 3 and is a bigger player for his position. And then Jokic, who does it all, and then Murray playing the point and being able to run pick and roll, being able to hit pull-up jumpers, being able to even post up a little bit and hit the fadeaway jumper. Like, I just think Denver, and then you got Michael Malone, who's an excellent head coach. Like, there is a reason that the Denver Nuggets took the mantle as NBA champion, not took it from the Warriors, but there's a reason that the Warriors are the last 2 champions. Like, the Nuggets got their 2 and 3 options back with Gordon and Jokic, who's playing out of this world, and they became an elite. They became that team. Basically, not saying they're going to win multiple or anything like that, but they became the team that kind of like the Warriors did after a few years of getting into the playoffs and not being able to get over the hump. They get in, they get everybody back. They had progressed over the years from first round to second round to conference final in the bubble. Then they dip back down a little bit because of injuries for a couple years. They get everybody back and boom, championship. MVP, Jokic, championship. And so, I'm not a big fan of their bench. But I think their starting lineup, I really the only guy I like is a lot off their bench is Brown, although Watson's not a terrible player. Reggie Jackson I think is a good regular season player. I kind of like Najee, but I just don't think they have enough veteran off their bench, which could ultimately do them in. But yeah, their starting 5 is no joke. And as far as Pajemski, this was a bad matchup for Pajemski. I don't think there's much doubt about it. But he was playing against grown-up men on his, 21st birthday, I think, for Brandon Pajemski today, February 25th. Yeah, 21, Feb 23 or Feb 25, 2003. So, Pajemski's doing great. But, tonight was a grown-up. He was a rookie playing with a bunch of grown-ups, and I thought at times it looked like it tonight. But you know what? You shake it off, you move on. He's a confident kid, and he'll continue to get better. All right, 808-KNBR is the number. 808-KNBR, it's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. We'll go ahead and pause here. We'll come back, and we will wrap things up. Sounds of Silver. We'll bring the great Greg Silver back into the conversation here. We'll also have some fun with numbers, and we'll tie a bow on this one from Harmonic Brewing inside Thrive City as the Nuggets beat the Dubs tonight 119-103. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
At the end of the day, we got to flush it. We've been playing really good basketball. They're a great team. I think in 2 or 3 of those we didn't have Draymond, and so who knows what would have happened in the other ones. But at the same time, we got to flush it. We got Washington in 2 days, and so we got to get ready for that.
All right, Trace Jackson Davis there as we welcome you back to Harmonic Brewing at Thrive City. 808 KNBR, final segment here on the Sports Leader. Trace Jackson Davis, flush it out. Can't make too much of it. Warriors beaten tonight by the Nuggets as the Nuggets flip the game. A 16-point deficit for them. 16-point lead for the Warriors turns into a 16-point loss for Golden State. 109-103 the final. Appreciate everybody out here at Harmonic Brewing as well. Been a lot of folks coming by and saying hi tonight. And so really appreciate that as things start to wind down here following this Warriors game tonight. Let's get to Sounds of Silver. Let's bring in Greg Silver back in our San Francisco studios. Greg, how are things rolling tonight? And what do you have for us as far as the post-game press conferences and sound from the locker room?
It's been good. We kind of got the whole mix, the whole grab bag. We got some raw press conferences, and we've got some little snippets like you just heard from Trace Jackson Davis. I've been running around like a rabbit at times, and hey, not complaining whatsoever. I love when the shows are what we make them, and this was a good night to get a few cuts, and a lot of people spoke, but admittedly, Klay and Steph just got to the podium very recently, like as recently as our last commercial in the last break, so that was a fun little turnaround. We'll keep it simple at the start and actually play a couple from Steve Kerr. He was only aired for a few minutes, but then was able to find a couple extra things he said, and I found that the social media cuts were probably the more intriguing ones. Steve Kerr, we'll start with this first one when he talks about Chris Paul coming back, because I know that was a big discussion on our Just Dubs podcast. We went an hour, 50 minutes yesterday, got to podcast that one up. If you haven't heard our weekly show, it will be every single Saturday at 10 o'clock. Might not always be on KNBR, but if not, 10 o'clock sharp on the airwaves or streaming on YouTube. So let's get to Steve Kerr when he talks about when Chris Paul comes back and the type of minutes he will take.
When you mentioned Chris, is that a possible way to ease some of the burden off of Steph? Bring the ball up, initiate the offense, play him with Steph.
For sure.
Is that like one of the key things you could bring?
For sure. Those guys, obviously Chris will play, when he comes back, he'll play all of the non-Steph minutes, and then he'll be out there with Steph as well. And it's easier for us to put Steph off the ball and take some of the wear and tear off of him, when Chris is out there, because he doesn't have to bring it up and battle pressure and all that.
All right, pretty blunt and to the point there, Steve Kerr. Yeah, going to play all of the non-Steph minutes, which that part actually makes a lot of sense. And typically when Steph is going to be out there, Draymond is also going to be out there for the Warriors. And so if you're not going to have Steph out there, then you're probably not going to have Draymond out there either. So you need to have a quarterback and a floor general. And I think the Warriors are trying to balance their bench group with Saric maybe and Kuminga being a part of it, maybe Klay Thompson as well, with Chris Paul kind of quarterbacking the whole thing. But yeah, I think playing Steph on the ball versus off ball, that's a question that Greg, we get into a lot as far as down the stretch. Like, should Steph be on ball or off ball down the stretch? I think you want him on ball down the stretch, but I do think you want him off ball some and throughout the course of the game to limit some of the wear and tear, which I think has been building to a point where it's been a big part of the reason why he struggled here in terms of the overall numbers over these last couple of games.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think Chris Paul is going to need to play 30 minutes every single night. We've seen how well
that part's still true. That part's still true.
Yes. We've seen how well this lineup has done for the most part. But I do think tonight's the kind of night where Chris Paul would have been great to have. It was a tough matchup for Podziemski. I think that the Warriors just got a little bit sloppy with their execution late in the first half. I think Steph had a little bit of a run in the third quarter, but for the most part, they didn't really have much going offensively, not a ton of flow all around. So this would have been a good game for Chris Paul.
Yeah, no, it would have been a game where he could have helped. And look, I think you look at the depth and the rotation and everything right now, they do need to add one more. I think it also takes a little bit of the heat off Podziemski, to be honest. And look, Podziemski's played great. Podziemski should, I think, still be playing close to the same amount of minutes that he's played to this point, Greg. But Chris Paul helps, I think, alleviate some of the pressure on Podziemski, who I think we do need to be prepared between now and the end of the season for him to maybe hit some kind of a little bit of a wall. A lot of times that wall comes in January. I think a lot of times that wall can come in March for rookie players. And so I think Chris Paul can help in that area. But make no mistake, my opinion, he should be playing still in the 16 to 25-minute range tops.
Right there with you. Well, let's move to our next cut, which is another blunt and to the point Steve Kerr cut. This one was being asked about Moses Moody. So if you're in the play Moses Moody camp, you might want to cover your ears for the next 43 seconds.
Oh, boy.
Moses Moody, played a lot against Charlotte, not so much tonight. What about this matchup might be a little bit more difficult for him?
About the matchup with Denver?
Denver, or the decision not to play him as much tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many guys I can play. I already had 11 guys in the rotation, which is almost impossible. 12 is impossible. So he's out of the loop right now, but it doesn't mean that's the case for the rest of the season. So, we've got a lot of guys who are healthy, and we're getting Chris back, on this trip at some point. So. Everybody's just got to stay ready, but there's not enough minutes for everybody.
Moses Moody.
So there you go. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's tough for those that there was too much Moses Moody there was too much chatter about Moses Moody tonight on social media. And look, I like him. I think he's been a playoff proven player really in both years, especially last year. He came in after not playing a lot. He's been a better player in the playoffs than he has been in the regular season in his young career, which is kind of remarkable to think that he'd be able to do that, but he's just going to have to wait his turn. And if he's not, if he's going to play, then Quinones is not going to play. Well, Quinones has helped the Warriors. If Moody's going to play, then maybe Kuminga's not going to play as much. Like somebody's got to not play if somebody else is going to play. Would I like to see Moody get some time here and there? Sure, but would I like him to be part of the rotation? Of course. But it's how do you go about doing it? And like right now specifically, Greg, it would be Quinones who would be, see you later. You're not playing if Moody's going to play his minutes, and those would be that would be the run that he would get.
Yeah, we talked about Quinones possibly being the one that gets thrown out of the rotation when Chris Paul comes back. So
well, and they don't play the same position either. Like that's the other thing. Like Chris Paul comes back, like he's going to be a backup point guard basically. So if he comes back, it's not – there's going to be a lot more of this, I think, moving forward from the fan base is going to be, well, damn it, now you're playing Chris Paul over Moody. Well, they don't play the same position. Like Moody's a 2-3, Chris Paul's a 1. Like it's not apples to apples. So what else you got here, Greg?
We got a couple more quickies, and then I'm thinking we get into the full Stephen Curry press conference because it's not always that he speaks by the time we get to Sounds of Silver. So this first one comes from Klay Thompson. It's about a minute long, and he's talking about just feeling refreshed after the All-Star break, trying to inject a little bit of positivity in tonight's show.
It's been great. I mean, I feel refreshed, especially mentally, from the All-Star break. And, I never looked at coming off the bench really as demotion, considering I'm still playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. I'm been in this league a long time, and to still be contributing at a high level and playing those type of minutes, you got to be grateful for that.
Have you changed up your routine at all pregame to kind of adjust for coming, into the game later with 7 minutes left or 6.5 minutes left?
Not really, to be honest. I still just trying to stay loose on the sideline, be myself, and just play with a free mind and, just be myself when my number's called.
All right, so Klay Thompson getting adjusted to the new role. And look, I mean, that's these last 3 games, it's kind of been every other, right? Played pretty well against the Lakers, struggled a little bit against Charlotte, played well tonight. Although, again, when he goes off for 23 in about 14, 15 minutes, you're thinking he might go for 40. And unfortunately, right now Klay Thompson's just, the cold spell's coming, even if there's a hot streak maybe attached to the front end of it, Greg.
Yeah, and look, it's tough to really fixate too much on Klay Thompson's cooling off tonight just because this wasn't a very good game for just about anybody else. But I hear what you're saying, that when
they needed the 23 to be in the game at all, and he provided it. And look, 23 is still a good game off the bench, so no doubt. It's not putting it on him by any means.
Well, let's get right into Stephen Curry, actually, because I know that we got to get going on our sound. So this is about 4.5 minutes, and we get the full shebang of a Steph Curry press conference.
They hit some tough shots. We had some open looks that didn't go down, and then they made us pay on the back end. Their style of play, when they're able to push in transition, Jokic at the top or Jamal with the ball, requires a great effort to try to slow their momentum down. And they made us pay for like 5-6 possessions in a row, and it got to the free throw line, I think, twice, slowed the game down a little bit. So you credit them. It's been maybe 3 games like this, obviously not in the fourth quarter like last game here, but where we've had a significant lead, and they're a great team that didn't panic and slowly walked us down. It was just one of those tough stretches that gave them life, and they took advantage of it.
You've played in all but 3 games this season. Steve was saying, he said a couple times recently, he thinks you might be a little fatigued. Do you feel fatigued at all? Do you not want to rest at all coming up?
No.
Okay. What 3 out of your last 4 games, shooting numbers have been down, and just missing shots, or what would you kind of attribute it to?
Yeah, you miss shots. Like it's one of those things. That's why they're called averages. Like, you got the highs and the lows of it, and nobody. Again, the standard that you set, when you don't meet it, there's questions about are your legs tired, or you just miss shots and you keep shooting. It's part of the nature of being available and playing every game, which never lose confidence and come back, whatever it is, Monday, try to shoot well on the road.
Steph, before the game, Steve was saying that he thought that Klay's mindset was improved over the last couple of days or weeks, and he's more relaxed and accepting of kind of coming off the bench or his new role. What do you see from him and how he's contributing?
Exactly that. Even the game, I think was the LA game, he only had 3 points. It was one of the better, all-around floor games that he's had, where he took what the defense gave him. He took the shots he was supposed to, shoot. Some of them, or most of them, didn't go in, but the way that the game flows and where he gets his opportunities, he was always just making the right play, playing great defense on whoever his matchup was. Got us some rebounds, extra possessions that way. And then, like tonight, it's kind of the opposite, where he's hot and keeping us, giving us a huge lead and a huge boost. And like the first 9 minutes he was out there. So it all comes from understanding that no matter if it's a starting role, bench role, whatever it is, he's still Klay Thompson, and he can come in and do exactly what he did tonight. I know he wanted to, shoot better in the second half, but the more reps he gets and more confidence he has to just go out there and just play basketball and don't let the narratives kind of consume him, that's when he's at his best.
Steve also said he thought Chris's return, which is obviously coming up on this trip, would help you relieve some of the burden. And obviously playing, he'll play the minutes you're not out there, but you guys also play together quite a bit. How do you see his impact on both the team and yourself?
I'm excited about it. Just when he got hurt, we were not in a great place, and trying to again establish our identity. We've had a pretty good run, and built some momentum since he's been out. But he's such a connector and a floor general and a guy that gets everybody in the right spot. So whether it's when I'm on the bench or the rotations where we're on the court at the same time, it'll hopefully elevate us to another level where he gets comfortable, gets his legs underneath him, and again just does what he does. And that on top of how we've been playing up until tonight, hopefully allow us to keep building.
All right, so Stephen Curry there, post-game following the Warriors' loss to the Nuggets. Doesn't want to rest. Got to keep shooting, and of course the Warriors can't afford to be giving Steph Curry kind of nights off at this point. You look at what they have ahead: Washington Tuesday, Knicks Thursday, Toronto Friday, at Boston, nationally televised game Sunday. If this team's going to get where they want to be, they need Stephen Curry to play all of these games. All right, let's get to a quick fun with numbers before we close things out here tonight on the Sports Leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors lose tonight, just the fifth time in the last 16 games now, as the Nuggets have swept the season series against the Warriors 4-0. And that is the second consecutive season that the Nuggets sweep the season series against the Warriors. They won it 3-0 last year. Warriors have not beaten Denver since April of 2022 in the Western Conference first-round series, the year the Warriors won their most recent NBA championship. The last time a team had beaten the Warriors at least 7 straight times, you got to go all the way back to 2010. 2010 to 2013, the Grizzlies beat the Warriors, and I mean that 2010 November. I mean that's like the Keith Smart era, second year Steph Curry era. The Grizzlies won 11 in a row until November of 2013. So yeah, the Keith Smart, Mark Jackson era Warriors there. And the last time a Western Conference opponent swept the Warriors in consecutive seasons, also the Grizzlies, going back to that era, 4-0 in the 11-12 year and 3-0 in 2012-2013. Despite the loss, Warriors have still won 8 of the last 10. First time this season, Warriors have scored under 105 points in consecutive games, so maybe a little bit of fatigue setting in. The 97 against Charlotte in the win, 103 tonight in the loss to Denver. Both teams had leads of 16 points in this one. 10th time this season a Warriors opponent has won after trailing by 10 or more. It goes down as another blown lead in a different category, even though the lead was gone end of second quarter, beginning of the third. Warriors down the stretch outscored 28-16 in the fourth, and it's the second time this season the Nuggets, both games at Chase, overcame a double-digit deficit. January 4th, 18-point deficit turned into the Nuggets' victory at the buzzer on the Nikola Jokic bucket. 20 points tonight for Steph. He moved into 31st on the all-time NBA points scored list. He has 23,180 points, passing Dwayne Wade and Adrian Dantley, who are 32 as well. All right, that'll do it. Thanks to Greg Silver. Tremendous job back in our San Francisco studios. Thanks to everybody out here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. We'll be back at Harmonic on the next Warriors homestand. Our next game out here is going to be on Wednesday, March the 6th. The Warriors will take on the Bucks, Bulls, and Spurs, the next 3 for the Dubs. That first full week of March, the 6th, 7th, and 9th. So appreciate everybody out here at Harmonic for having us out. And our next broadcast will be Tuesday night, Dubs OT with JD, following the Warriors and the Wizards from the nation's capital. We will be on the air around 6:15, 6:30, and taking you all the way up until 9 o'clock. All right, that'll do it. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to everybody again out here at Harmonic. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. Appreciate Daniel and Carla as well, who stopped by and said hi. Cheers to you on this Sunday evening. Warriors fall to the Nuggets 119-103. We'll talk to you Tuesday. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Green inside, and it comes off. Everything but the bucket for Golden State. Caldwell poked for three. Got it.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
We got Steph Curry.
If that doesn't tell you the pieces don't fit, I don't know what else does. Great! I hate it!
I think the Nuggets played like champions. They did to the Warriors what we've seen the Warriors in other years do to a bunch of other teams.
The only flow that's going is down a toilet. A lot of games have stung this year. We've had a lot of heartbreaking losses.